how far can we get in Paper Mario the Origami King if Mario has just 1 HP? Can we get to the Earth Vellumental boss? Can we get past the falling missiles near the colored pencils boss? Can we pass the Fire Vellumental temple? And can we even finish the first tutorial fight? Here are the rules for this challenge. We edit the game to make Mario have 1 HP. If Mario's HP increases, we save the game and decrease his HP back to 1. No using extra HP battle accessories, and we can use any items that we can normally buy in shops once we unlock them, like shiny hammers or 1-up mushrooms. When we can't progress any further and it's impossible to continue the game with 1 HP, the video will end. Ladies and gentlemen, if we bump into anything, if we take any damage at all, if we fall into any holes, it is game over. So please keep your arms and legs inside the vehicle at all times during this video. For Mario's sake. Part 1. The beginning. At the start of the game, we don't run into a fight until we first meet King Ollie and he sends some folded soldiers after us. You might know that in Paper Mario the Origami King, you do more damage as your HP increases, and this is true for HP values that Mario can't normally reach also. I was worried that since we have such a low HP value, we die at the tutorial fight because we wouldn't be able to do enough damage. But luckily, with 1 HP, Mario does enough damage to complete this fight. The jump attack takes out all of the Goombas, and the hammer attack takes out the Shy Guys, and Mario doesn't get hit, so he can continue the game. A cutscene plays where King Ollie steals the castle, we end up in a forest, and we continue through the Whispering Woods. We have to be careful to not walk onto these vines or to fall into any holes, because any bit of damage will kill Mario. Some Goombas jump out of some bushes to ambush us on the way to the spring, and you can't avoid this fight. We line them up and do a jump attack, and on the second group, we hammer the group of Goombas, so we can also get through this fight no problem without being damaged. Things are looking pretty good so far. You'll notice something strange after this fight though. If you enter a fight with 1 HP, after the fight your HP changes to 1 out of 50 instead of 1 out of 1. So after every fight, I have to run back to the save block and reset Mario's HP back to 1 out of 1 before we continue. We can avoid the other Goombas on the way to the spring and then avoid them on the way back. All of the fights up to this part of the game are pretty easy, but it'll soon get a lot more difficult. The first part of the game where you actually have to be pretty careful is where you face the Paper Macho Goomba in Toad Town. If Mario or the Goomba touch each other, it's game over. And I always have the tendency to accidentally walk into them. Because of that, I was being really careful to not get too close to them, and sometimes I was missing some of my hammer attacks because I really wanted to keep a safe distance, and we ended up taking out this Goomba no problem. After that momentous victory, I have no idea why, but I tried to jump over this hole instead of filling it in. I don't know why I did that, okay? So we have to go down this manhole to continue the game, and we need some information from this Shy Guy's friend to do that. To save the Shy Guy with the information, we have to face another Paper Macho Goomba, but in a tighter space in this backyard here, so it's a bit more difficult. I play it safe again, and we're able to rescue this Shy Guy without getting a game over. We continue on our way, avoiding the Paper Macho Goombas that are still left in Toad Town. We head over to the red brick house by Toad Town Port. Once we're inside, I use this green cart to take out the Goombas in here instead of fighting them. In this room, we get the manhole hook, and with that, we can head to the sewers. Honestly, nothing super difficult yet. If you're a little careful with the Paper Macho Goombas, then everything here is pretty easy. Once you're in the sewers, you can avoid this first fight by running and jumping over the bottomless hole, which is a little bit risky because if you fail the jump, then it's game over at 1 HP. We can also avoid the next fight here if we run quickly to the right after turning on the light, but then there's a wave battle that we can't avoid. In the first wave, we line up the enemies, and a jump and a hammer attack at 1.5x damage is still strong enough to take out all these enemies in one hit. In the second wave, we do the same thing, except we do 2 jump attacks to take out everything, and Mario can continue his 1 HP adventure. After this fight, I want to go back to the save block and reset my HP to 1, because your total HP increases to 50 after a battle, but on my way back, I fell into the hole that I jumped over on the way here. Why didn't I just fill it in? So I have to do the sewer part all over again, and then we get back to where we were before, and we can continue from this spot with 1 HP. We now have one more fight before we could get to Princess Peach's castle. We're surrounded by 12 scaredy rats. 1 ring rotation and 1 slide gets them all in place, so that with a jump, another jump, and a hammer attack, That takes out all of them without us taking any damage. We've made it to Princess Peach's castle and we're ready to save Luigi. That's some pretty good progress for having just 1 HP, and I'm happy about how things are going. But at the same time, I'm a little nervous that the Earth Vellumental is going to be coming up soon, because I do not think that that will be possible at 1 HP. After we leave Princess Peach's castle, we have to fight this Goomba here and save the Toad trapped between dimensions, otherwise we can't continue. It's a very easy fight, and then we make it to Picnic Road. Once we get to the Earth Vellumental Temple, there's a Shy Guy trying to steal the last Shell Stone here. So we attack this Shy Guy, we use a slide and a rotation, and our jump attack at 1.5x damage is enough to take out all of the Shy Guys without taking any damage ourselves. Now we just have to get the other Shell Stones. There's a Folded Soldier Goomba who calls over a Paper Macho Goomba that blocks this bridge. So we have to defeat this Paper Macho Goomba to get to the other side of this bridge. So we've taken out a few of these. This one might be a bit tricky, but it should be easy enough. I'm playing it safe and trying to attack when it's turned around. I try to lure it and run away, but this time it ends up getting me on the last second because I was too impatient in trying to lure it over. I have to try again, and this attempt goes much better, and we easily beat that Paper Macho Goomba. I know that there's a Cheep that you have to fish for with one of the Shell Stones, but I'm not sure if we could win that fight without taking any damage. We have 3 moves once we get into the fight, so I do a slide and 2 rotations to get them all into place. I use some iron boots that I got earlier, so I use those because I'm not sure if regular boots will do enough damage. And thankfully, it worked. I'm not sure if we needed the iron boots or if regular boots could have also worked, but we got the Shell Stones successfully. We get to the Paper Macho Shy Guys who are playing soccer with one of the Shell Stones. We get the Shell Stone from the Paper Macho Shy Guys without taking damage, without any problem at all. And since we don't have to actually defeat these guys, once we have the Shell Stone, we just run away and head back to the Earth Vellumental Temple. I'm starting to get worried that we're approaching the end of our run here. We probably can't go much further in the game now that we're getting close to the Earth Vellumental boss. We make our way through the temple, being careful to not fall on the spikes, but still sometimes falling on the spikes and seeing a couple of game over screens. In the next room, Olivia says, "Hey, we haven't seen any folded soldiers in a while." And then some folded soldiers suddenly appear. It's easy to run past these, so we continue through the temple. I try to avoid the next folded soldier and end up falling in the spikes. I come back and manage to successfully fill in the hole with confetti while avoiding the Koopa Troopa's attacks, and then we climb up and continue through the temple. And then we get to the fire room. We break this rock, dodge the Koopa Troopa, and then we have to avoid a lot of spinning fire. And yes, I did die to this fire many times. You normally shouldn't struggle with this part as much as I did, but I had a lot of game overs here. In the last obstacle, you wait, and you climb into this empty hole, and then you're carried to the other side, and that lets you avoid any damage. We made it to that sweet save block, and we don't have to go past this fire anymore. After this large wheel rolls over you, there's a max-up heart that you have to get. I don't think it can be avoided, so I get it, go back to the save block, and set Mario's HP back to 1. And yeah, you might have noticed that max-up hearts work kind of weird when you have really low or really high HP. Part 2, the Earth Vellumental. And now, it's time to die many times to the Earth Vellumental boss. It'd be nice if we could do what we want in the fight, but Olivia forces you to make certain moves because this boss fight is basically a tutorial. If you try something else that Olivia doesn't recommend, she says, "That's not it," and then she makes you do it again until you listen to her. And if we listen to her, then Mario dies. Many times. Mario keeps following Olivia's advice on the boss, but he keeps dying because he has just 1 HP. I tried heading all the way back to Toad Town, heading to the Battle Lab, and getting a 1-up mushroom, but I still didn't think this boss would be possible. Maybe we could get the boss's HP a bit lower, but I still didn't think it was possible at 1 HP. Olivia was still forcing us to make certain moves in the boss fight. And here's the saddest part. The world record for defeating this boss is 3 turns. That's the least turns anyone has been able to defeat this boss in. Since we have 1 HP, we can only survive getting hit in 2 turns. Is it time to pack our bags and end this video? Can we only get to the first boss but not defeat it in this challenge? I was messing around with the Earth Elemental, seeing what would happen, dying repeatedly, dying many times to the Earth Elemental, and eventually I started getting some strange dialogue from the boss. I know sometimes as a joke I say, wow, the characters are saying subscribe to this YouTube channel, look at that. But this time I actually did get some strange dialogue from the game. It turns out there's a value in the game's memory that keeps track of how many times you've died to the Earth Elemental boss. When that number gets high enough, Olivia offers to skip the tutorial. This is huge. If you say yes that you want to skip the tutorial to this prompt, then you get full control of the rings right from the first turn of the fight, instead of having to wait until later in the fight. Since the Earth Elemental attacks every turn, we might actually have a chance at this. With some more experimentation, here's what I do. In my first turn, I hammer the Earth Elemental's tail with a shiny hammer, the one that we got earlier in the Earth Elemental Temple. It attacks back with Rough Landing. With a block, this attack does 7 damage, and we're living in a universe where 7 is more than 1, so Mario dies and uses up his 1-up mushroom. Things are looking pretty rough. We can say they're looking pretty rough landing. I know that if I use the 1000-fold arms right now, the boss won't die and it'll heal, so it'll kill me. So I have to try something else in the second turn of the fight. I use a Fire Flower, and it does almost nothing. Even with action commands, each hit does only 1 damage, for a total of 4 damage. But since we didn't use the 1000-fold arm attack, and the boss is in its shell, it doesn't attack in this turn, so we get to survive for another turn. The boss is ready to use its special attack, but this is turn 3 of the fight, and we've done some damage. This is Mario's chance. We start turn 3 by bringing the 1000-fold arm circle right up to Mario and activating it. We flip over the boss and start pounding it with our 1000-fold arm attack. And oh man, after many failed attempts, seeing that final attack that defeats the Earth Elemental boss felt so satisfying. I didn't think it was possible, but we beat the Earth Elemental boss with Mario having just 1 HP. That is absolutely unbelievable. Part 3. The Tower of Suffering. Leaving the Earth Elemental Temple is like a breath of fresh air. The run isn't dead yet. We did what we thought was impossible, and there's hope in the air. I know that it's possible to beat the Colored Pencils boss without taking damage, too. I'm wondering how far we can take this challenge. I can dream again. The turtle has been defeated. But little did I know what was waiting ahead of me. The Earth Elemental may have seemed like an insurmountable challenge, but the tower leading up to the Colored Pencils boss had hours of rage and frustration waiting in store. Let me explain. When you enter this tower, and you fill in this hole, the doors lock. You can't save until you get to the room right before the boss. That means you have to complete the whole tower without saving. Normally, this isn't too bad, but here's what happens when you have just 1 HP. You have to get into the elevator. You take the elevator up. Olivia gives a long speech. You fall down the elevator. You fight these Goombas. This is all easy, but it just takes a while to do. And then you make it into the kitchen. The kitchen has a Goomba infestation, and you have to get rid of all the Goombas. Do you know how annoying it is when you spend 10 minutes clicking through the same dialogue, and the Goomba that's on you bites you because you can't knock it off fast enough? Or one of these Goombas on the floor zips into you and it's game over and you have to redo that and sit through that whole dialogue all over again? I'm not one to easily get triggered by a game, but man, this was the most frustrating part of a game I've played in a long time. After dying to the Goombas a few times here, I really got the hang of playing it safe and making sure that I wouldn't die here. But the next part was even worse. The missiles. The first few pencil missiles have to be dodged with well-timed jumps, and you have to be moving the right way, so you have the right momentum to make it over them. I think you might also be able to hammer them, but I just jump over them. That's easier for me. After you dodge a few of these missiles, you want to be lined up so once the missiles start aiming at Olivia, it breaks the one brick that has a crack, and you can get inside. And here's the final step. We hit a switch, and the missiles start raining down at us. And remember, anytime we're hit by a missile, or any of the little Goombas before this, we die, and we have to do this whole sequence all over again right from the beginning, from the moment that we enter Overlook Tower. If we somehow manage to do all of this, and we survive all of the missiles until the ladder almost hits the ground, then the entire ground for some part of the circle's circumference is lit up with missiles that are going to hit us. After making it all the way here a few times, dying every single time, trying different strategies, trying to run to different parts, trying to use the umbrellas for protection, I was ready to say that this is impossible, that I can't get past this part without taking any damage. But then, somehow, I got out of range of the targets before they landed on me. It looks like we're going to survive, and I was so happy when I started heading up this ladder. I don't know if I was happier here or at the Earth Elemental boss, but the long dialogue that you have to sit through when you mess up here means that I spent even more time here in the Overlook Tower than at the Earth Elemental boss. Once we made it upstairs, we got to that sweet, sweet save block. I have never been so happy to see a save block in my entire life. And I knew that the Colored Pencils boss was going to be easy because I know that this boss can be defeated without taking any damage at all. So defeating this boss with only 1 HP was no problem at all, and after defeating this boss, we can happily say that you can get from the beginning of the game to completing the first streamer of the game, with Mario having only 1 HP. What an achievement. I didn't think it was possible. There were so many hurdles that I thought would be impossible to overcome, but you know the saying, fall 7, rise 8. With perseverance, we overcame what we thought was impossible, and we cleared the entire first streamer of the game with just 1 HP. Part 4. Is the whole game possible at 1 HP? After this incredible victory, I was elated. I was very satisfied. I didn't think it was possible to get that far, and we did it. But just how far can we take this challenge? There's nothing really difficult leading up to the Water Elemental boss, but for now, the Water Elemental boss with only 1 HP is impossible. I tried dying many times, using different items and weapons, using the Earth Elemental at different parts of the fight to try to dodge attacks, but we just can't survive long enough to beat the Water Elemental boss. There are parts of the game after the Water Elemental that are possible at 1 HP, like the Shy Guys with buckets of oil in the Fire Elemental Temple, and other bosses like Scissors and even the final boss, King Ollie, you could defeat them without taking any damage at all. But for now, this is as far as we can take this challenge, and I'm so happy with how this turned out. Who would have thought that you could complete the entire first streamer of the game with Mario having just 1 HP? I hope you enjoyed this video. I had a lot of fun on this journey, and if you want to stay caught up with my experimentation on this game, as well as on other games, all of my links are in the video description below. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope that you did enjoy it. I hope that you have a lovely day, everybody, and take care. What the hell was that? What was that?